So I can't believe I didn't notice this until recently, but this is the set that introduces EX Pokemon back into the game as a capital EX here, and it has EX in the name. So does the next set and the set after that. It's like first 3 sets, EX in the name. Very silly. Hey guys, this is Gamer Cow. Welcome to another Pokemon trading card game history video. This time we're on next Destinies, the set that many people will claim ruined the game forever. Very hyperbolic considering 10 years later we're still playing this game, and a lot of the people who are playing it this time were still playing this game, are still playing this game I should say, and still winning tournaments too. So, you know, bit hyperbolic, but it certainly is the set that changed the game forever, because now we have always had a multi-prize mechanic in format ever since this set came out. We did have that stint in Diamond, Pearl, Platinum where there wasn't any multi-prizes being printed, and for the first 4 sets of the Black and White era, well, first 3 of them had no multi-prizes. Then, yeah, now we just have them constantly, and say what you will about them. In Gen 5 there's not the greatest implementation to be honest, but there are still skill involved in it, and with the exception of this guy, pretty much all of them in the first set here, very balanced. So yeah, very interesting how this works out. What we have, they're all legendary Pokemon, so currently they are all basics, but EXs, capital EX this time round, they will always be basic even when they are evolved Pokemon. That's just how it goes. We'll see that a lot in Gen 6, but not until the end of Gen 5 in Legendary Treasures do we get any evolution Pokemon. It's just legendaries. So maybe that's one poor implementation as well. A lot of people probably got sick of seeing legendary Pokemon all the time with it, but I mean, hey, they make good chase cards, right? We have 2 categories of EX, more or less, in this format. We have the Tankmons, if you will. These are 170 and 180 HP basic Pokemon. Kind of insane when you think about it that way, based on what we've been playing so far. Especially when you look at just Ember right next to it, right? Very stupid. And then they have a bunch of attack stuff. The attacks generally do not one-shot other EXs, so there is still counterplay, and like, you know, weakness chaining and stuff like that can still matter. So yeah, that's important. And then the other category is the frail ones, aka the pixie style ones. You know, think your Mew, your Victini, Shaman over here. These are 110 to 120 HP. Jirachi later on is only 90 HP, but there's a good reason for that. And these are the very frail ones that you have to be very careful with, but can absolutely determine the games that they're good in. So yeah, let's just go over the EXs first actually. Shaman over here, like I said, only 110 HP, gives up 2 prizes. All the EXs give up 2 prizes when they're KO'd. And it has 2 attacks. The first one you're generally not going to see too often. It is Synthesis, lets you for 1 grass energy, put grass energy from your deck onto one of your Pokemon. So that's kind of cool, but again, 110 HP, 2 prizer, very easy to KO, so you generally don't want to use that attack. What you want to use here is Revenge Blast. For 1 grass and 1 colorless, it does 30, plus 30 for every prize the opponent has taken. So, despite its fragility, this is an EX that eventually will one-hit KO other EXs. 180 damage if the opponent's on their last prize. End to 1 Shaman prize, you know, take with 180 damage. That is a hallmark of a lot of decks in this era. So do expect to see it, but also expect to lose because of it as well. It is very frustrating when you start this guy. Reshiram, at least the background is cool here. One of the other things that a lot of people don't like about the EXs, at least the full art ones down here, is the yellow outlines. These are very ugly on a lot of these EXs. I refuse to play this Zekrom because it's just too ugly with the yellow on its black outline stuff here. If it was white outline stuff, I'd be much better with it, and later chase cards, some of them do actually go to white outlines. That just looks a lot nicer. But yeah, it's prevalent on all of them. Maybe it looks a little bit better on the holofoil if you're playing in real life, but yeah. Some of them it's okay on though, like this Reshiram kind of looks fine because the background is pretty cool too. It is a 180 HP EX, all of the rest of them in this set except Mewtwo are 180 HP, so I'll stop mentioning that now. It has a 3 energy retreat cost, which is very high but actually works to its benefit in this set, and it has 2 attacks. Glinting Claw for 1 fire and 2 colors does 50, and if you flip heads it does 30 more, so 80 for free. Not that impressive to be honest. That is Thunderous, Landorus, and Tornadus numbers, which like they're fine, but they have added benefits of being able to like manipulate energy as well, either searching them from the deck or discard, or like moving them to themselves. So yeah, not exactly great, and that's only if you flip heads. 50 for free energy is misery on any Pokemon at this point, right? And then we have Brave Fire. For 2 fire and 2 colors, you do 150 damage, which is a lot. That one-shots every single non-EX, except I think exactly Samurott, because it survives with its ability. However, if you flip Tails, you do 50 damage to yourself, which would take you down to 130 HP, the same number as the original Reshiram. The problem, of course, apart from just being flippy, Eviolite doesn't even block that much of the damage here, and 150 is not enough to KO the other EXs. The 4 energy cost is extremely high, and the fact if you keep that energy is going to be a problem, as we'll see later on. So yeah, it's just not great. You can get some use out of it, but generally speaking, this is not the fire card that you want to play in those decks. So yeah, unfortunate. Kyurem, surprisingly not that bad. It looks like it should be the worst one, but it's still fine. It's got the same free energy retreat. All of the Tau Dragons have free energy to retreat here. They all have color, double colorless, and then double colorless as their attack costs. So Frozen Wings for that water DCE, 60 damage, and you discard a special energy attached to the defending Pokemon. That is a really good attack actually, very disruptive. And Hail Blizzard for 2 water and 2 colors does 120, and this Pokemon can't use Hail Blizzard next turn. Get used to hearing that, by the way, because we're going to get a lot of that as we go further into the game. Pokemon loves doing this can't attack next turn, or can't use this attack next turn as part of their balancing. So yeah, get used to that. 120 is respectable, but not quite enough to KO most things that you would want to hit. 130 is really the number that you'd want to hit because of Zekrom and Reshiram, but 120 is decent. And Frozen Wings is very, very disruptive now. Double colorless energy, extremely prevalent. There's a new special energy that works with these basic Pokemon in this set, which is really good. Rainbow energy is still played, rescue energy is occasionally played. Tons of good special energy stuff going on. Even potentially special dark and special metal. If special metal's quite good actually against the Durant decks and stuff. So yeah, Frozen Wings is pretty strong. And if you can fuel this, or if you can do other disruption stuff as well, then it's pretty solid. We're going to see this from Sai on the second battle round here, because he's going to play this with Feraligatr, so it should be good. Zekrom has the same Glinting Claw attack as the Reshiram, but this card is a fair bit better overall because Strong Volt for 2 lightning and 2 colorless does 150, and you discard 2 energy attached to this Pokemon. You can discard double colorless if you want to, that's perfectly fine, but you can also just discard 2 lightning, and that makes it very viable for the electric deck. Now, electric does appreciate this. 150 is a lot, so you can use this against like any one prizer basically and score a one-shot as much as you want, which is really good. But the discard cost is also good for electric because you just accelerate that energy to the bench anyway. So yeah, this is solid. Also, getting rid of a couple of your energy means that you don't take as much from Mewtwo EX, and this card is the one that people point to when they say that the game died with this set. Mewtwo EX only has 170 HP, but it also only has a 2 energy retreat cost, which is pretty good compared to the other ones here. The second attack is basically ignorable in most decks. Psydrive does 120 for 2 Psychic and a Colorless, and you discard any 1 energy attached to this Pokemon. So, I mean, that's fine if you can power it, but Psychic is not a particularly good attacking type at the moment, right? There's not a bunch of acceleration or anything like lightning or fire or even water, so that could be hard to power up. Oh, very funny we're hearing two of the same song. Anyway, not the point. Really, X-Ball is why this card is insane. Double colorless energy, 20 damage for every energy attached to both this and the defending Pokemon. So bare minimum is doing 40, which 40 for 2, not that impressive, right? But think about the attackers in this format. Almost every attacker needs 3 energy to do their actual attack. That means that X-Ball is probably hitting 100 against most Pokemon for just 1 energy attachment if you attach a DCE. Yeah, this card is gross, but it gets worse. Yes, it's 170 HP, so you're generally going to have to 2-shot it. It's a basic Pokemon, so it can use Eviolite. All of the EXs can use Eviolite, even though they're not pre-evolutions. I always hated that part, to be honest. So they can be made incredibly tanky. But Mewtwo is weak to itself, and that's where the problem lies. X-Ball would be a good attack, a very good attack, but it would be a good attack that you could trade 2 shots with, if it wasn't weak to itself. If you have a DCE on Mewtwo, and the opponent has a DCE on their Mewtwo, you hit 160 damage. Plus power or any sort of damage taken beforehand gets it over the edge, and you KO their Mewtwo, or they KO you, depending which way it goes. Really, really stupid, because it basically turns the game into a Cold War of Mewtwo versus Mewtwo. And there's not a lot you can do about it. If you lose that war, you've probably lost the game, and if you win that war, well, I mean, it's 2 prizes every time one of these goes down, right? So the game is over in like 3 turns. Very, very dumb. So, yeah, when people say this card, this set ruined the format, they really mean this card. And as a result, we're playing 1 round, we've already played it at the time of recording this, we're playing 1 round without this card in, so we could see what the EXs would be like otherwise, because they're generally pretty balanced. Regigigas also shows this as well, 180 HP, 4 retreat cost on this thing, so you're never getting out of the active basically. Giga Power for 3 colorless energy does only 60, but if you do 20 damage to yourself, you can make it do 20 more to the opponent as well. This damage is blocked by Eviolite, so with Eviolite on it, it just does 80 for free, which is respectable. You know, that's Tornadus without any downside, right? On a basically 200 or even more HP Pokemon, if the opponent can't kill it in 1 shot. And if they don't kill it in 1 shot, they're in for a really rough time, because Raging Hammer for 4 colorless energy, 2 DCE, does 50 plus 10 for every damage counter that's on this Pokemon. Which is just outrage, but with extra cost to it, right? 4 energy is a lot, but it's any energy, so any energy accelerator can do the job here. You could play it with Typhlosion and actually put damage counters down on it too, so you can power it up that way. You can use it with Emboar, because Emboar also has a high retreat cost, as we see here, and that works with the trainer cards in the set. Or you can use it in like the Reuniclus Vileplume type stuff in the Truth decks, and manipulate the amount of damage that's on this thing so you can always score the exact KO you need while staying as safe as possible. It does keep its energy, which is annoying against Mewtwo, right? A DCE Mewtwo on a Raging Hammer enabled Regigigas is going to do 120 damage. So it's a lot, for sure, but it's still pretty strong in the right situation. So yeah, Gigas, kinda nice. We have a couple of shinies in here as well, the actual shiny Pokemon, these chase cards. We could have used these arts already if we were playing these. I actually personally prefer the promo art for Zoroark, that's why I played that one. But yeah, it's cool. This extremely rare Pokemon is a different color than usual. It is very hard to find. Nice flavor text, right? But yeah, we've got Chandelure, Emboar, Zoroark, and Hydreigon. 3 of these were decently played at the time, and this one unfortunately was not, but can't win them all, right? Trainer cards and special energy is probably the next bit. The special energy is easy. We have DC reprinted. This gets reprinted until Generation 8, so get used to it. But we also have Prism Energy. This card is good at the moment, but it becomes a problem later with Plasma when that eventually happens. Prism Energy is a special energy that provides a colorless, but it is a rainbow energy specifically on basic Pokemon. They really wanted to push these EXs because, my god, why would you print this when these Pokemon are just so much stronger already, right? But it gets worse, because as much as I like the card, Sky Arrow Bridge also massively pushes the basics out in front of the Evos. The retreat cost of every basic Pokemon in play is one less. So suddenly, your Shaman over here has no retreat cost, which is pretty cool. Also, stuff like Thunderous Tornadus, we're going to take advantage of this in the deck that I play for the No Mewtwo week around here. So yeah, it's really, really strong. And one of the reasons you could consider Battle City is specifically to bounce this if you don't want to play Tropical Beach. And, you know, back in the day, Tropical Beach was really hard to get hold of, so yeah. Other stuff we have here, our one supporter for this set is Silent. This lets you search your deck for 3 basic energy cards and put them into hand. It's fine. Emboar decks and Feraligatr decks could potentially use this, but even they don't tend to. I remember seeing it as a one-off in Blastoise decks later on sometimes, so yeah, it's possible to play, but it's really not that good, to be honest. So don't expect it to see a lot of use here. Experience Share is really good though. This is a tool that attaches to one of your Pokemon, and if your active gets KO'd by damage from an opponent's attack, you can move 1 basic energy from that Pokemon to the Pokemon this is attached to. This was in format in Gens 2 and 3, but it discarded itself after it put an energy in play. This one does not. Experience All was the prototype for this, and this one is just strictly better. I really, really like this card. I don't know if I'm going to play it in too many decks at the moment because it does compete with Eviolite as the main tool of choice, but it is an excellent one to have around and is super, super good in the right deck. So yeah, expect to see this played. Heavy Ball is an item card that lets you search for any Pokemon with a retreat cost of 3 or higher and put it into hand. This is costless, so any deck that can take advantage of this definitely should. Heavy Ball's a little bit trickier to use because, yeah, that retreat cost stipulation doesn't come up too often, and most of the time the basics do not have that high of a retreat cost, so it's a very specific card to play, but when it's good, it is really freaking good. So definitely keep an eye out for this one. Level Ball is the more applicable one for most situations. This lets you search your deck for any Pokemon with 90 HP or less and put it into hand. So this is kind of cool. Almost every basic Pokemon that isn't an EX is going to have 90 or less HP, outside of, say, Tornadus and Zekrom and that sort of thing. But any evolving basic should have 90 or less HP. Even Onix has got that HP total, so there you go. And some stage 1s also have 90 HP, right? Even Reuniclus could be searched with this, or Reuniclus, however you want to say it. 90 HP on that, it's really nice. So this can be very, very good for searching, obviously the basics, but also certain stage 1s, like Electric is another one. And this can bypass the rare candy needs sometimes. So yeah, really good. Pokemon Center is our last trainer card here. This stadium lets you heal 20 damage for one of your bench Pokemon once per turn. Both players get to use it. It's relatively benign. Very occasionally I used to see this run as a check to Darkrai, but it wasn't really that good. You know, it was mostly just, do I have a stadium space, or am I really worried about snipe damage? If so, maybe I'll play this. As for the non-EXs, and I guess we'll talk about we'll show the artwork for the EX, the regulars here as well. I quite like a lot of these. Some of them are a little bit indistinct though, I guess. It's kind of hard. Like, I don't know, I've always been weird with this one, where the full arts are really cool. I'll usually play min rarity if I'm like having to get the cards myself. But because we could just take whatever card we want, maybe not play so many of those ones. I don't know. Artwork is very cool in the TCG after all. Pinsir is a very silly card. For double colorless energy, this 80 HP basic lets you flip 2 coins, and for every heads, you discard an energy from the defending Pokemon. Remember, Victini is in format, so we've got like a 15 out of 16 chance to discard 1 energy from the opponent, and that's all it can really do. Grip and Squeeze is a terrible attack after all, but sometimes that's all you need, so I don't know. I don't think anyone's gonna play it, but it's there anyway. The monkeys get another freaking print here. This is the 3rd time in 4 sets I think they've been printed. Oh, I should have noted actually, we do have non-Gen 5 Pokemon here now. Yay, I guess. Yeah, the gimmick behind the monkeys this time is that they have only 90 HP, so you can level ball them, search them all, and they do collect for their color of energy to draw 3, and then color plus colorless to do 30, and if there's a stadium in play, they do 60 and an extra effect. So Simisage is the worst, it does 60 and heals 30, it's not surviving anyway. The Simisear does 60 and burn, which, okay, maybe that does a bit more damage. And the Simipour does 60 and sleep, which is also pretty bad. So none of them are good. Maybe if the Prism Energy worked on evolutions, this would be okay, right? Because you could maybe justify playing these as a stage 1 toolbox type deck with level ball, right? Easier to search than a lot of this stuff would be, so bit of a missed opportunity, I think. Amoonguss, and kind of Fungus as well. If you flip heads with Fungus, you can search your deck for a Pokemon. That's cool, I guess. It's just literally Pokeball, but as an attack. Amoonguss is going to be decent later with Ninetales. Technically, Leafeon could be played with this, but Leafeon's damage output is just too low now to really matter. But Amoonguss, 90 HP, so it's level ball searchable. Not heavy ball searchable though, because it's only 2 to retreat. It's really just here for its power, because its attack is terrible. Spore Prize, when you bench this, when you evolve into this I should say, you get to confuse and poison the opponent's active. So this effectively is the same thing as what I did with Magmortar back in Triumphant with the Leafeon deck actually. The problem is, even though we still have Seeker, it's a little slow to play Seeker for this guy most of the time. And it's also very disruptible too. Fungus only has 40 HP, so that gets a bit tricky. What this really needs is the Ninetales later on. Ninetales and Dragons Exalted lets you Gust as well as doing 20 plus 50 for the special conditions, so that can actually add up a lot better. In the future this is going to be good, just the future is not now, sorry. Arcanine, I guess, is kind of cool looking at the very least. It's too expensive for what it does, but it is heavy ball searchable, as is the Growlithe, so I guess if you wanted, you could do that. Blazing Mane is kind of neat at the very least. Fire Spin, though, maybe not so much. Not enough damage at this point. Legendary Birds get a thing here as well, which they're not very good in general. Also look really bad. Like, you know, this is 2012 CGI, I guess. 2013 even. It looks horrendous. I'll just say that now. Yeah, this is just massively inferior to Reshiram, so I don't know why you would ever play it. I guess it was this fighting. Maybe that's the gimmick. I don't know. Chandelure is pretty cool. For 120 HP is quite low on the stage 2, but it only needs 1 energy to do its good attack, so there is that. 1 fire energy to do 30, and 30 to 2 of the opponent's bench. This might just look like a worse Glaciate from Kyurem, and, well, you'd kind of be right, but it only takes 1 energy, and it works with the Chandelure from the previous set that lets you spread damage counters around. I don't think that is a deck I can personally play. I don't think I'm good enough with the whole having to switch out the active thing in order to make it work, but it is pretty neat, and there are a couple of decks, like one with Vileplume and one with Vanillux, that we'll see in a bit, that you can work, you know, run with this as well. Reprint for the Reshiram and Zekrom from Black and White 1, they're in here as well. That's pretty good for the player base, to be honest. I remember actually using these ones whenever I used them when I got into the game, because they were easier to get hold of. There's the artwork for Reshiram EX, if you're interested. Next up we have Lapras. This is a 2 retreat cost mod, so you're probably not going to see it very often, but Call for Family on a Water Energy, or Prism if you're playing that kind of thing. Search your deck for 2 basics. I personally think there are better options for it, but we don't quite have the Emolga yet that will take over. Stantler, I think, is the best overall thing, but it is also fighting weak, so that could be an issue. And Pichu technically is the best, but it's also a baby, and X-Ball one-shots baby Pokemon, so don't play them. Unless you absolutely have to, don't play baby Pokemon at this point. So maybe you play this just because it's the best option you have to Call for Family with. I don't know. If you're playing Water anyway, it's not a terrible choice. 2 energy retreat and 100 HP is awful for the new Ball Search though, so sucks to suck, I guess. Articuno, again, doesn't really do anything fancy, but Ice Wing, I guess, is a vanilla 80. Takes so much energy though, and also just looks terrible, I'm sorry. Vanillite has 60 HP, so this is better than the Vanillite from the previous set, and Vanillux has a sort of warp point on it. When you use this ability, you switch your active with one of your bench, and then if you do so, the opponent switches their active with one of their bench. They do get to choose what comes in, but if you play it correctly, it won't matter what comes in anyway. Oh, like, yeah, what you switch to, so yeah. It's fine. The attack is awful, so you only play it for the ability. A stage 2 bench sitter is very difficult to justify right now when it isn't exactly Emboar or Fraligator or something like that, so I don't know. It's tough, but if you need this kind of ability, it could be really strong, so keep it in mind, I guess. What else have we got here? Kyurem's artwork, kind of nice to be honest. Honestly, probably better than the full art one, so maybe I should use that, I don't know. Zapdos is interesting, if nothing else. It's a lightning type that resists fighting, so that automatically makes it considerable. Ran the 120 HP, they've all 120 HP to retreat. There's a lot of patterns in this set. Random Spark for a lightning double colorless, again pattern with the rest of the birds here. 50 damage to one of the opponent's Pokemon. Okay, 50 Snipe is fine. Most basics that evolve have got 60 HP at this point, so you're not really killing stuff with this too often. You might snipe a Tynamo or something though, so that could be quite good in the mirror. Despite the lightning weakness, might still be worth it. And then lightning triple colorless, flip 4 coins, 50 damage per heads. Maybe if you play Victini, you've got reasonable odds of hitting 150 with this between the two things, but it's very sketch, and I don't know. I think there are better cards that you can use here, but it is a lightning type that resists fighting, so if Tornadus isn't doing it for you, maybe try this. There is a Luxray here that just shows you how strong Luxray GL level X was. Flash Impact does the same damage for less energy and does less to you. You could negate this impact with Eviolite, but it's on a stage 2, and its second attack is really bad, so this card is terrible. 140 HP is not necessarily doing it any favors either. It's like the average amount at this point, so yeah. Zebstrika might trigger some war flashbacks for those who played in Gen 3. This is literally a 1-prize Manectric EX. 90 HP, no retreat cost. Pretty sure Manectric had no retreat cost, maybe it had 1. And the same 2 attacks as well, just not quite named the same for the second one. Disconnect for a lightning colorless does 40, and the opponent can't play items next turn. And Lightning Crash for 2 lightning and colorless discards all lightning energy on Zebstrika, and does 80 to one of the opponent's Pokemon. That is pretty good, and level ball searchable too, so that's really nice. Use it with the electric, that is the level ball deck, because then all of your stuff is searchable with it. But the problem is, like, that doesn't stand up to a lot of the stuff that we now have. And Manectric was in a format where, like, the highest HP, if you could set up a stage 2, was like 150. Now the basics have got more than that. And it's just depressing when you think about it. 40 per turn is not going to be good enough to make up for the lock. unless the opponent isn't playing enough supporter cards, and then maybe you can get away with it, but it's just not there. Also, I wouldn't want to play it if for no other reason than it is likely to cause some unrest because of Mewtwo EX's history in this series. So yeah, don't expect to see this card. Zekrom's new art, kind of cool. Zekrom EX's art, this is the one I much prefer, so we're playing this one 100%. Mewtwo's original artwork, kind of neat. There's a promo Mewtwo that comes up later on as well, but I think this is still the best, regular art for it, so it's kind of neat. Gardevoir usually gets some interesting cards, this one is no exception. Gardevoir lets you treat your Psychic basic energy that is attached to Psychic Pokemon as double Psychic instead. If you recognize this, it's because it is Wild Growth, but for Psychic types. Wild Growth was on Meganium originally, and then Sceptile in the previous generation, and it was kind of cool. Honestly speaking, it was alright. Problem is, we don't really have any way of getting Psychic Energy into play that is like reasonable here. There's Jirachi, I suppose, if you play Jirachi in like Energy Switch or Shaman, but that's a lot of bench space when you consider the Gardevoir as well. And what are you powering up? There are no good Psychic attackers except for Mewtwo, and Mewtwo doesn't really need the Psychic. We might try and play Mewtwo Gardevoir anyway, but I feel like it's just not that good, right? One thing you can try and play it with is Darmanitan, however. There is a Darumaka in this set that has a free energy retreat cost. You could play that with Heavy Ball if you want to. And this is a 110 HP stage 1 with 2 decent attacks, we'll say. Definitely for the meme value. Pepper did play this in the No Mewtwo game, and, well, it was really good against Sai, not so much against me. Synchro Draw for 1 Psychic shuffles your hand into the deck and then draws equal to the opponent's hand size, so it's copycat on an attack. Not really where you want to be, but sometimes it's desperation, right, that you need to do this. And then for Double Colorless Energy, the awesomely named Darmaxiton does 50 damage times the number of coins you flip heads based on the energy that you have on you. So at base value, it is 2 energy, 2 coins, 50 per heads, right? But this, just like the Executor that we used all the way back in Fire Red Leaf Green with Electrode, this scales. So if you have like 4 energy on this thing, you'll flip 4 coins and you'll do on average 100, so that's still not really good enough, let's be real. But obviously this is a Psychic type, so any Psychic energy you have on whilst Gardevoir is in play is doubled as well. So yeah, basic Psychic, which can then be experience shared around, and Double Colorless can still work with this thing. It stacks up, just that's a lot of energy on one dude, right? So take it as you will. There's no acceleration to play in that deck. So yeah. Mashana mostly comes up for Degeneracy later on. It's a 100 HP Heavy Ball searchable Pokemon. With Forewarn as it's in here. We don't really have many effects, other than Magnezone exactly, we don't really have any effects in the format that let you draw, right? Forewarn looks at the top 2 cards of your deck, you choose one of them to go into the hand, the other one goes back on top of the deck. There are some synergies that you can use with this right now. Sage's Training is a pretty good one, where if you have a card you don't want on the top of the deck, out of the 2 cards, you can keep that on top of the deck and then Sage to discard it guaranteed, so that can be kind of good. You can also put 1 card in if you're looking for a supporter, maybe it's a Juniper that you get, and then the other card goes back on top of the deck, so you know you're drawing a decent card at that point. Yeah, there are synergies for it. It potentially comes up with the Boundaries Crossed Muna later on as an extra for it. That Muna has got long distance hypnosis, which is why it gets played, but this is still okay. Keep it in mind. BEM, not a particularly good card, but it has a Yu-Gi-Oh attack on it, so I always find that funny. Brain Control is a thing. Lucario mostly just shows you how far we've come in terms of power creep here. 100 HP is not levelable searchable like the original Lucario would have been. Its attack is very similar to the original Luke in Aura Sphere. 50 for 2 fighting, 20 to 1 of the opponent's bench. 10 damage more than the Diamond Pearl one. So much worse now. And even its ability that puts 2 damage counters on anything that does damage to it when it's active, that's still nowhere near good enough. Cool artwork though. What else have we got here? This Sneasel is pretty useful. This will probably see play in some decks later on. Corner is really good because a lot of decks in the future, when Keldeo EX comes out, start to not play very many switches because they play a bunch of other stuff instead. Even decks with a high retreat cost don't tend to play a lot of switch. And if you can corner their Keldeo, maybe you can get them where they just can't attack for a turn. And yeah, very, very good. So, for a 60 HP basic, keep it in mind, I guess. The Weavile's not that terrible either in the right situation. 90 HP, so it's lovable, searchable. And for 1 fighting energy, or 1 dark energy, sorry. We're not at Sneasler yet. 1 dark energy, it does 90, but only if the opponent has a tool attached to them. That will get more prevalent as we get later into the game, right? We've got Eviolite and Experience Share at the moment, but we'll have Giant Cape, we'll have Rescue Scarf, potentially. Dark decks will play Dark Claw, so there's plenty of scope to get this attack off later on. Just, yeah, it's obviously super situational, so you don't want to rely on it. But this Sneasel is good enough that you maybe just play it anyway. So yeah. Shiftry would be absolutely gross if we still had stuff like Yuxi and Broken Time Space in the format. Giant Fan lets you flip a coin when you evolve into this thing, and if you flip heads, one of the opponent's Pokemon gets shuffled back into their deck. This does not say benched, so you can donk your opponent basically by removing all of their Pokemon in play if you get enough Shifteries into rotation. This with Seeker right now would be super gross. Seeker, Super Scoop Up, stuff like that to reuse the effect as often as you can. But thankfully it's not very good because, well, you can't evolve quickly enough. The evolution rules really changed to allow this to see play. Or not see play, but like, you know, be not very good even. This did get banned and expanded for a time when Forest of Giant Plants was available, because at that point there was a grass type Seedot and also Nuzleaf in expanded, so you could evolve into this immediately. But then Forest of Giant Plants got banned and this got unbanned instead, so yeah. Metal Pokemon get absolutely no love here whatsoever. There's a heal block, Bronzong I suppose, but this kind of effect is terrible because not a lot of decks play healing anyway. There's a Wigglytuff that has Round, so if you wanted to meme with the Seismitoad, this is one of the better times to do so. The Meloetta that comes out in Legendary Treasures is very sketch because it's a 110 HP 2-prizer, and it can't attack with Round because it's too expensive. So yeah, like if you want to play it, this is probably as good a time as any, but it's a stage 2 attacker that relies on multiple stage 1s being in play as well. It's probably never going to work, but it would be very funny, so maybe that's good enough, I don't know. Unfortunately, Jigglypuff doesn't have Round. That would have made the deck actually playable, so, you know. Also, 2 retreat on the Jigglypuff too. Very, very annoying. Regigigas, regular artwork. That's actually kind of neat. See the light coming out of the face holes, I guess, for lack of a better word. And then finally we have the Cinccino line. Minccino has Call for Family, so this is objectively the best Minccino that we have. If you want to play the Do the Wave Cinccino for some reason, I mean it's DCE compatible, it's not that bad, right? That's now pretty good with this. And then we also have a very annoying Cinccino in here as well. I've seen a heinous deck with this that plays Vileplume to stop the opponent from capturing around this effect, and Hypno to flip for sleep. Didn't even know that card existed. It was in Heart Gold Soul Silver base set, and if you flipped heads it just put the opponent to sleep. So that combines with the 2 very annoying things that we have in terms of this attack set here. 90 HP, so it's lovable, searchable. Smooth Coat, if you take damage from an opponent's attack, you flip a coin, or any attack actually, it can be yours as well, so I guess if you flash impact this for some reason, you flip a coin, and if heads, that damage gets prevented. So 50% of the time this just doesn't take damage in the first place, but that kind of effect doesn't really do anything unless the attack is decent. We've had Jump Off with this effect before, and that was really bad. So what does this actually do? Well, for free colorless energy, which is annoying because Mewtwo one-shots it with a DC at that point, 50 damage. Really, really bad, right? But if you stay in and the opponent doesn't like gust you out or it doesn't KO you, you do 50 more damage with every other use of Echoed Voice. So it's 50 the first time and then 100 every turn after that. And the opponent only has a 50-50 chance of knocking you out. If you use that Hypno, then you make it so the opponent has less chance to attack in the first place, and Vileplume stops them playing Switch or Catcher. Yeah, it's a heinous deck, and we're probably not going to actually see it played, because I don't think anybody wants to play it, let's be real. But yeah, very, very dumb. Wish it did better into Mewtwo though, and that's all I really have to say. This set is very weird because most of the stuff that aren't the EXs really aren't that impressive in here. Like, it's additions to decks that we already have, right? Embor likes the EXs that are in this set. Electric loves a lot of the EXs in this set, actually. Mewtwo fits into anything you would want it to fit into. And really, there's not a lot beyond that. Some players did play the Chandelure, and that was pretty much that. Yeah, one crazy person made Cinccino, I guess. So a very strange set, but a very powerful one nonetheless, just not for introducing new archetypes into the game. Which is unfortunate, because despite how wide open this format has been, we've kind of played all of the good archetypes. So, yeah. If you've made it to the end of this, the next battle video is going to be without Mewtwo EX in the format, and then the one we're going to be doing on the Saturday is with Mewtwo in play as well. And we'll see just how devastating the Mewtwo Wars were when this set came out. It's a reason this card was incredibly expensive at the time. Maybe when you're like the, by far and away, the best card in the set, you're always going to be a little on the pricier side. Anyway, thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found this interesting. And yeah, if you want to see the battle videos, there is a playlist for my stuff here on the channel. Maybe I'll link that in the description, because yeah, I know not a lot of people actually watch the battle stuff, and I know that like stream highlights, like stream VODs and stuff, so maybe it's not for everyone. But if you want to see some of these cards in action, we are playing a decent number of games with the stuff that we like the most here, and they've been quite good games. So yeah, take a look at that, and until next time, take care.